I know. This is a difficult and crazy season. What I want you to know is that you are not alone. And if there's any way that I or our staff or leaders can encourage you and be there for you, please reach out to us and let us know. We're in this together. You are not alone. And I want to encourage you with a thought here at the beginning. No matter what you're going through, I want to encourage you by faith to remember that no matter what is going on, never underestimate what God is doing through this season. Several years ago, when our oldest daughter was just a couple years old, she rolled out of bed in the middle of the night and she cut open her cheek, and she was bleeding and just crying and screaming out and hurting. My wife and I were scrambling, trying to figure out what was going on and try to get her to the emergency room. And there were several moments throughout that when I'm sure my daughter thought, man, what's my dad doing? Like, where is he? Why isn't he doing something? But what she didn't know or didn't realize was that the whole time she was hurting and the whole time that she was waiting, I was working. And in the midst of this crisis and this season we're in, no matter what you're going through, you have to know and have to realize that God is at work. So never underestimate what God is doing. And while it seems like this is an obstacle or a roadblock, I believe that for the church is getting stronger and the church is expanding. And I believe that for you, as you go through challenges, you are getting stronger and you are growing. So never underestimate what God is doing right now through all of this, because we believe that God is in control, that He is good, and that He is at work in what is taking place right now. See, we would be confused or we would be misled if we look at the narrative of what's taking place and go, God, why aren't you doing something? Because if we're really, really honest, there's something much, much deeper and bigger going on right now than simply some kind of virus, than simply some kind of economic concerns, right? God is doing something on a spiritual level. That's our challenge today, is to see what God is doing at a different level. That's why I'm so excited about this series that we're in as we're finishing up Ephesians chapter 6 today. Because it reminds us this, Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. It says, our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers and against the authorities and against the powers of this dark world and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. See, God wants us to see that there is a battle raging right now. And on the surface, it looks like the battle is for toilet paper and for other things, but it's really about people's eternal destinies. And it's really about us being awakened to the spiritual realities. God reminds us our battle is not against flesh and blood, but it is against spiritual forces. See, really what's taking place in the universe is this battle between God and our enemy, between good and evil. And we're on one side or the other. We have to recognize that the enemy is trying to take ground and God is trying to take ground back. We are in a fight. And what I want to encourage you to do right now for just a few minutes is to move past the craziness and consider what God is doing. I want to encourage you to pray a simple prayer. To simply say, God, you're in control. What do you have for me in all of this? God, help me to see past the surface issues. Help me to recognize a deeper, bigger thing that you're doing in our world and in my life. Calm me enough to be able to recognize what you're doing. And when we planned out this series called You Got This several months ago, we had no clue where we'd be at this very moment. But I do believe that God did. And I do believe that God wants to use what we're talking about today to calm your spirits and to empower you. See, this whole series is about identity and who God says we are. And I believe that as we hear more and more what God says about us, we will hear God saying clearly to us, you got this. What an encouraging message to hear from God right now. You got this. You got this. You got this. I pray that you hear God whispering in your ear, you got this. You got this. you got this. No matter what may come, you got this. See what God wants us to know about ourselves? Here's our I am statements. Number one, you are chosen. God chose you to be in a relationship with Him. You are graced. The crazy good news of Jesus is that we are saved by God's grace. You are loved. You need to know that you are loved, and there's nothing you could do to make God love you more. There's nothing you could do to make God love you less. You are loved by God. You belong. God made you for a family. We belong together. We will rise through this together. You belong. You are transformed. See, God comes into a person's life. God empowers them. He changes them. He transforms them. We don't have to live in fear. We are overcome with faith. And today, our topic for today is you are empowered. You are empowered. And we'll flash a picture of a painting for this week, but it's by our very own Alexandra Beatty, so please give it up for Alexandra. And it depicts what we're talking about today, which is the armor of God, that you are empowered. See, you may not realize it, but I want you to see this, and I want us to pay attention. You feel it. I know you do. But we are facing the battle of our lives. We are fighting the battle of our lives. And I don't mean coronavirus. I mean, we're fighting the battles that God has placed in front of us. Right now, we're seeing the intensity get ratcheted up. And what that does is it kind of peels away the surface layers and allows us to look deeper. See, God is doing something bigger right now in our world. Can you see it? Can you feel it? Can you perceive that? See, we are in a fight, but we are not afraid because we are empowered. We are in a fight, but we are not afraid because we are empowered by God. And I don't know if you've ever heard this prayer before. It's called the Serenity Prayer. It goes like this. It says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. And right now, there's some stuff we can't change. We can't change the shelter-in orders. We can't change the circumstances of the economy. There's a lot of things we can't change right now. God, give us the peace and serenity to accept and say, you know what? I can't change that stuff. God, give us the courage to change the things we can. So what I want to talk to you about for the next few minutes is how to fight the battles that we see in front of us right now. Ephesians 6 gives us some great things to look at for how to fight these battles. And kids, those who are joining us, I want to encourage you to do this as we talk about this today. Today we're talking about something called the armor of God. It's protection God gives us to fight fear and to fight anxiety and to fight temptation. And the armor of God is something that you put on. So I want to encourage you, these next few moments, with your parents' permission, go grab as much sports equipment or dress up stuff as you possibly can. Come back to the room and put it all on. Put it all on as if you're putting on the armor of God. And again, snap a picture, share it with me. Maybe you can even draw it out, draw out the armor of God, and engage with what we're doing today with your family as well. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share 3 things with you, 3 ways we can fight. We got to learn to fight, and we're going to fight in 3 different ways. Here's the first way. I want to challenge you and encourage you to fight with purpose. Fight with purpose. Recognize that you are in a fight, and you need to fight with purpose right now. Ephesians 6, 10 through 13 says, finally, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers and against authorities and against powers of this dark world and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground. And after you've done everything, to stand. It says the word stand in there so many times. It's encouraging us, be strong, don't back down. Your purpose and your goal right now is to stay standing. Hold on to your faith. Fight with purpose and intentionality. See, the goal right now isn't to stay perfect. The goal right now is to stay standing. Hold on to your faith. Hold on to your hope. You'll have good days and bad days. You'll get knocked down, but get back up. See, I love this thought. This is so cool. If you know this, if you're a follower of Jesus, We recognize that we are not losing the battle. We have, in fact, already won. See, we don't fight in this battle. We don't fight to achieve victory. We don't fight for victory. We fight from a position of victory. We don't fight for victory. We fight from victory. See, if you're with Jesus, if you've placed your trust in Jesus and he's changed your life and come into your life, you are victorious because Jesus has won. What we're watching unfold is simply a playing out of the battle, and you and I get to be a part of that. See, we are taking ground. See, this is not just right now. This is not about coronavirus. We need to wake up. Our battle is not against flesh and blood. This is about people's souls. This is a spiritual battle taking place right now. See, listen, we don't fight to hold ground. We fight to take ground. I want to challenge you to change the narrative. See, the enemy has taken ground in your family and in your life and is messing with you. But God is coming to fight to take you back. See, we get caught up in worrying about the stuff that we can see, and God is challenging us. Don't focus on what you can see. Focus on what you can't see. Because what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. He's saying, hey, there's an unseen battle, and you're on one side or the other, and we need to stand. Matthew 16:18, Jesus says, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. See, gates don't advance. We got to change the narrative. See, hell is not trying to advance on Jesus. And Satan is not trying to advance. Satan has already taken ground, and God is going after Satan to take ground back. See, I think the enemy is scared right now. I think the enemy is on the run right now because the church has left the building, because God has deployed his people. What the enemy intended for evil, God intended for good. I think that we need to pick a fight with the enemy right now. I've shared this before, but I've got a couple older brothers, and one time I wanted some payback, and my dad was helping us wrestle, and he had my older brother pinned down, and he said, okay, Josh, here's your chance. And so I took the chance, and I gave my older brother as big a wedgie as I possibly could. I did pay later, but in the moment, I took that challenge. I picked the fight because my dad was with me. And I believe right now we need to fight with purpose, that God is at work all around us, and we need to have our eyes open to that fact, that we are not fighting to survive. We are fighting to take back ground. We are pushing back darkness. We are setting people free from what holds them back. We need to fight for it because God is at work. Jesus is alive. We need to rattle the cages of hell. We need to fight with purpose.